The philosophers have only interpreted the world, in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. The oppressed are allowed once every few years to decide which particular representatives of the oppressing class are to represent and repress them. Surround yourself with people who make you happy. People who make you laugh, who help you when you're in need. People who genuinely care. They are the ones worth keeping in your life. Everyone else is just passing through. The last capitalist we hang shall be the one who sold us the rope. Men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. They do not make it under self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past. The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. And just as they seem to be occupied with revolutionizing themselves and things, creating something that did not exist before, precisely in such epochs of revolutionary crisis they anxiously conjure up the spirits of the past to their service, borrowing from them names, battle slogans, and costumes in order to present this new scene in world history in time-honored disguise and borrowed language. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. The less you eat, drink and read books, the less you go to the theater, the dance hall, the public house, the less you think, love, theorize, sing, paint, fence, etc., the more you save, the greater becomes your treasure, which neither moths nor dust will devour your capital. The less you are, the more you have, the less you express your own life, the greater is your alienated life, the greater is the store of your estranged being. Hegel remarks somewhere that all great, world historical facts and personages occur, as it were, twice. He has forgotten to add, the first time as tragedy, the second as farce. Let the ruling classes tremble at a communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite. Reason has always existed, but not always in a reasonable form. I am nothing but I must be everything. To be radical is to grasp things by the root. Go on, get out. Last words are for fools who haven't said enough. It is not the consciousness of men that determines their being, but, on the contrary, their social being that determines their consciousness. In a higher phase of communist society, after the enslaving subordination of the individual to the division of labor, and therewith also the antithesis between mental and physical labor, has vanished, after labor has become not only a means of life but life's prime want, after the productive forces have also increased with the all-around development of the individual, and all the springs of cooperative wealth flow more abundantly, only then can the narrow horizon of bourgeoisie be crossed in its entirety, and society inscribe on its banners, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas, i.e. the class which is the ruling material force of society, is at the same time its ruling intellectual force. The class which has the means of material production at its disposal, has control at the same time over the means of mental production, so that thereby, generally speaking, the ideas of those who lack the means of mental production are subject to it. The ruling ideas are nothing more than the ideal expression of the dominant material relationships, the dominant material relationships grasped as ideas. Religion is the impotence of the human mind to deal with occurrences it cannot understand. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. If anything is certain, it is that I myself am not a Marxist. There is no royal road to science, and only those who do not dread the fatiguing climb of its steep paths have a chance of gaining its luminous summits. If money is the bond binding me to human life, binding society to me, connecting me with nature and man. Is not money the bond of all bonds? Can it not dissolve and bind all ties? Is it not, therefore, also the universal agent of separation? Under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated, by force if necessary. The bourgeoisie, by the rapid improvement of all instruments of production, by the immensely facilitated means of communication, draws all, even the most barbarian, nations into civilization. The cheap prices of its commodities are the heavy artillery with which it batters down all Chinese walls, with which it forces the barbarians' intensely obstinate hatred of foreigners to capitulate. It compels all nations, on pain of extinction, to adopt the bourgeois mode of production. It compels them to introduce what it calls civilization into their midst, i.e., to become bourgeois themselves. In one word, it creates the world after its own image. Modern bourgeois society with its relations of production, of exchange, and of property, a society that has conjured up such gigantic means of production and of exchange, is like the sorcerer, who is no longer able to control the powers of the nether world whom he has called up by his spells. In proportion therefore, as the repulsiveness of the work increases, the wage decreases. You are horrified at our intending to do away with private property. But in your existing society private property is already done away with for 9/10 of the population. Its existence for the few is solely due to its non-existence in the hands of those 9/10. You reproach us, therefore, with intending to do away with a form of property, the necessary condition for whose existence is the non-existence of any property for the immense majority of society. In one word, you reproach us with intending to do away with your property. Precisely so, that is just what we intend. The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. We have no compassion and we ask no compassion from you. When our turn comes, we shall not make excuses for the terror. Communism is the riddle of history solved, and it knows itself to be this solution. Communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the products of society. All that it does is to deprive him of the power to subjugate the labor of others by means of such appropriation. It has been objected, that upon the abolition of private property all work will cease, and universal laziness will overtake us. According to this, bourgeois society ought long ago to have gone to the dogs through sheer idleness, for those of its members who work, acquire nothing, and those who acquire anything, do not work. Society does not consist of individuals, but expresses the sum of interrelations, the relations within which these individuals stand. Labor in the white skin can never free itself as long as labor in the black skin is branded. Then the world will be for the common people, and the sounds of happiness will reach the deepest springs. Ah! Come, people of every land, how can you not be roused? The increase in value of the world of things is directly proportional to the decrease in value of the human world. Communism is for us not a state of affairs which is to be established, an ideal to which reality will have to adjust itself. We call communism the real movement which abolishes the present state of things. The conditions of this movement result from the premises now in existence. The ruling ideas of each age have ever been the ideas of its ruling class. If you love without evoking love in return, if through the vital expression of yourself as a loving person you fail to become a loved person, then your love is impotent, it is a misfortune. The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of the system of producing and appropriating products, that is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of the many by the few. The education of all children, from the moment that they can get along without a mother's care, shall be in state institutions. Capital is dead labor, which, vampire-like, lives only by sucking living labor, and lives the more labor it sucks. I am a machine condemned to devour books. The theory of communists may be summed up in the single sentence: abolition of private property. Money is the universal, self-constituted value of all things. Hence it has robbed the whole world of its proper value. Money is the alienated essence of man's labor and life, and this alien essence dominates him as he worships it. Money is the alienated essence of man's labor and life, and this alien essence dominates him as he worships it.